Today we're going to start learning the technique so that by the time you've learnt the technique, you'll be able to create this lovely braided necklace. This is what we call a hand-dyed variegated braid. And then this clasp is just glued on, and it's very easy spiral that you just unspiral and take off and pop back on again. The kit to make the necklace is available on my website at www.beadessence.com.au. Now the kit is $30 and you get everything in the kit that you need to start and complete your project. So in the kit you'll get a disc, foam disc. Now this is a 6-inch foam disc, it's 10 millimeters thick. There are some thicker discs available, and if you like, you can actually get a 4-inch disc. You're going to get 8 bobbins, and these are the little bobbins that you just push out and close like that. You get this gorgeous little booklet, which teaches you not only the Kumihimo technique, so as a refresher, there's also some extra projects in there for you to do. So that's great little value, that book. You get some Nemo thread to finish your piece, and of course the clasp, a needle, some glue, and this glue will last you for ages, a 10% discount voucher from my website, and you'll get 2 cards of rat's tail. Now there's 10 millimeters on each of these rat's tails, and this is a satin finish over a cotton core, and it's a 2 millimeter thick braid, this particular one. This is the navy and the pale blue, so this is the 2-tone blue version. The other colour options available are camel and beige, and that's gorgeous. A black and white, the traditional, and for those of us who like purple and white, and a multicolour one. So you'll get 2 cards, and each of these cards has got 10 metres on it, so that's more than enough to do this project and maybe another project or a bracelet out of it. So firstly, what we're doing today is what we call an 8-warp round braid. So that'll give you a nice spiral finish on your piece, and we'll see that build up as we move through the class. So firstly, what we're going to do is we're going to set our bobbins up. So you need to determine how long the finished length is for your necklace, and then what you'll do is you'll multiply that by 3, and that will be the total length of the braid that you need for each bobbin. So for example, if your braided necklace is going to be 50 centimeters long, finished, then you need to cut at least 1.5 metres, that's 3 times 50 centimetres. And I usually add a little bit extra for a bit of wiggle room, just in case I change my mind part of the way through, onto each of your bobbins. So you'll cut your lengths and then you'll wind them on, each one onto the bobbins. So you'll open up, you'll have your bobbin, you'll open up your bobbin like that, and then you'll get your braid. So a good idea for the braid to anchor it in place is to just do a little slip knot at the end. So just sort of, do a little loop at the end. And then what we're going to do is create a slip knot out of that. All thumbs tonight, all thumbs. There we go, almost there. So loop it through. Just pull it through on the other side. There we go. Just pull it taut, and then just pull through the braid like that, and then just loop it over your bobbin and pull it, and then just wrap it up. So what we're going to do is wrap it all up, have them all wrapped up, and then what we're going to do is just get some nice, pull each of our bobbins out. You just need to pull the thread. You don't have to open it again, just pull it out. so that you've got a nice little length of braid like that. So then we're going to, it's a good idea probably to do alternate ones at this stage. So this is the purple and white one that I've got here. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8. So what we're going to do is we're going to gather up each of these, and we're going to pop them all together, all 8, and we're going to tie an overhand knot to secure all the braids together. So you just need to make sure, try and have them all at equal length, so you can make sure that you've captured them all and you don't lose any, because otherwise you'll start braiding and one will fall off. So we've got 8 like that. So I'm going to tie an overhand knot, and this forms the tail, which gives you something to grip once you start doing your braiding. So we pull it through like this. You've got your overhand knot, and it's nice and secure. So a nice little tail. So that's probably what, 6 centimetres, 7 centimetres long. Then what we're going to do is we're going to get our disc and hold it with the printed side up. And then we're going to pop this through the centre of our disc. Now, one of the things about Kumihimo is that it's based on the points of the compass. The top of the disc is called the table, and commonly in patterns you'll have things like, it'll be referred to as north, south, east and west. So they're the points of the compass, and that's the way the patterns refer to the various positions on the disc. There are some numbers on this disc. We don't need to worry about those at the moment, but when you start doing more complicated braids with more bobbins, you can go up to about 16 bobbins. Then that's when you might need the numbers so you can see where you're going. But for this braid, it's fairly straightforward, and it's a nice beginning braid. Now the other thing is, so that we can achieve a spiral effect on our braid, we need to make sure that we have the same colour on north and south, and then the other colour on east and west. So let's start by popping these braids into place. So all we need to do is just grab the first, I've picked up a purple one to start, so we're going to pull that down, and for each of these we're going to go on either side of the dots. So see, this is the south, so we're going to find another purple braid and pop that down the other side of the 16 on the other side of the dot. This is really just a starting point. You won't need these numbers once we get going. Then we're going to find the other purple braids and do the same thing at the north part of the disc. So a little bit tangled to start off with, but once you get going it'll be fine. It's like any beading or jewellery project. Starting's always the challenge. So then we've done that. We've got the north and the south with the purple. So now we're going to place the white on the east and the west. Same thing on either side of the dot, east and west. So you can see that there's always the same colour going vertically and horizontally. Okay. And if for some reason you find that you've got a bobbin that's the opposite colour on there, you'll know you've made a mistake. So that's when you need to start stepping it back and find out where your mistake is. So here we are. We're ready to start. So we've got our 8 bobbins in place. We've got our tail here. And we're ready to start braiding. Now, it's a good idea just to have them all, the bobbins, just don't have them too long, because if they're too long, they become difficult to manage and they tangle up. But just try and make sure they're all in. And all you need to do, just a gentle pull, and that releases some of the braid. Now, the good idea to hold this, if you can see, I've got it between my middle and pointer finger. Okay, so pop it down underneath, and you need to maintain a nice firm tension on that as you continue through the braiding process. Don't maintain a nice tension, then you'll get it. The spiral will become larger or smaller depending on how you change your tension. Now, the other crucial thing that you need to remember in this particular technique is that we're going to turn the disc after each move. Now, you can either go clockwise or anti-clockwise But make a decision at the start on which way is comfortable for you. And once you make that decision, you have to stay with it for the whole project. Because if you start going clockwise and then halfway through you decide to go back anti-clockwise, then you won't get that lovely spiral finish on your braid. So, ready to start braiding. So, our first move is we're going to go from the bottom to the top and top to the bottom. So those two parts make up one move. And the other thing to remember is you're always working on the same side of the disc. So wherever you take the thread from, you must put it back on the same side of the disc, but at the top. You don't cross the centre. Never cross the centre in this particular pattern. And the other little handy hint, which you can see I've done here, is when you're learning, just pop some little arrows on here so you remember which direction you're going in, so that you'll always be turning the braid. Because I remember when I first started, I used to keep going backwards and forwards and couldn't work out what was wrong. So remember, always work on one half of the disc at a time and always turn in the same direction. So let's get going. So our first move, we're going to just pull this thread out of the slot there and we're going to lift it from the south to the north, or the bottom to the top. And see, we're always staying on the same side of where we took the cord from. And then we're going from the top on the left down to the bottom. So those two steps make one move. So then we now need to turn our disc a quarter turn. And I happen to be going clockwise. That's what's comfortable for me. But you can choose to go whichever direction suits you. But remember, once you make a decision on which direction you're going, stay the course until you finish the braid. So here we go again, from the bottom to the top, south to the north, top to the bottom, north to the south. Another quarter turn clockwise for me. South to north, north to south. Quarter turn. And for those, finally, the other option, easy way to remember, is you're going from the bottom to the top and then the top to the bottom. Quarter turn. Bottom to the top, top to the bottom. Quarter turn. Bottom to the top, top to the bottom. So this is really therapeutic. I love doing this while I'm sitting there watching the television, because you don't have to, once you get into the groove and you've got the motion set, you can just sit there and relax, and it's quite therapeutic. Bottom to the top, top to the bottom. Hope you can see that clearly. Bottom to the top, top to the bottom. Bottom to the top, top to the bottom. Quarter turn. So this is, once you've done this, this is the technique. You've learnt the technique. Once you start doing this, you've learnt the technique. Bottom to the top, top to the bottom. Now, we all know that you can never start a project and usually finish it in one sitting. So here's a little trick so that you can remember where you're up to when you put your project down. Do half the move. So you're going to go from the bottom to the top, and that will give you 3 threads at the top. So when you put that down, and then you come back to it, you'll go, oh, okay, 3 braids at the top. That means that this top left side must be my next move. So top to the bottom and quarter turn. And then we just keep going. Bottom to the top, top to the bottom. Quarter turn. I don't know if you can see the start of the little pattern there. It's very small. What I'll do is we'll move to another one that I've done a little more work on. And here we can see the nice spiral in the braid. See how it just spirals round? And see, I've picked this up and I've got 3 braids. So I know, aha, top left, that's going to be my next move. So there we go, we just continue around. Top to top, top to bottom, bottom, top, top to the bottom, bottom, top, top to the bottom. And you just keep going until your braid is the length that you'd like. Now you need to make sure that at the other end you're able to tie another knot off at the other end. Is we can start producing something like this, which has got a little more interest to it. If you look at this braid, it's been moved around a bit, so it's a bit, well worn, this one now, but it's still round. You've still got the spiral through it. But what I've done with this one is I've used 4 bobbins of a rat's tail and 4 bobbins of a ribbon. So what we've done is introduce some ribbon. So that's the particular ribbon that I introduced to this one, and that's an 8mm wide ribbon. You can also get a 25mm wide ribbon. So these are hand-dyed ribbons that are exclusive to Bead Essence. This is called a kajako, so it's a Japanese version. And these are variegated. All of these are variegated with multiple colours through the ribbon. And then what I also used on that was I used a hand-dyed braid. So these are the same as a rat's tail. They're 2mm. There's 10 metres in both the ribbon and the braid. And now some of these colours are exclusive to Bead Essence, these 3, and I've just received some other new colours. So we'll be increasing the range slightly. So these, I've been working with a local wool artist who's dyed the rat's tail for me, and now we've come up with some really interesting hand-dyed braids exclusive to Bead Essence. And they're available under the Kumihimo section on the website if you're interested in that. But here's a working piece that's got the ribbon and the braid. So this one's, the red black hand-dyed braid and a greyish sort of ribbon. So it's the same thing again. You've still got your eight braids, but what we've done is put ribbon on 4 and braid on 4. So it's exactly the same technique. Don't worry that it gets twisted, that's fine. You're still going to keep working from the bottom to the top and the top to the bottom. Quarter turn, bottom to the top, top to the bottom, bottom to the top, top to the bottom. Keep turning, bottom to the top, top to the bottom, bottom to the top, top to the bottom, bottom to the top, top to the bottom, bottom to the top, top to the bottom. So we're now going to, I'm going to move on now and show you how to start finishing off your braid. So what we're going to do before we put this down so I know where I'm up to next time is bottom to the top. And actually the other thing that I might show you, which is probably easier to see on the black and white one, I think, is how to look at the braid structure in your braid. Because that's the other little hint that you can use to remember where you're up to. Because you're always coming, I'll just get this back to the next position, you're always going over the closest braid when you do a move. See, there's a braid on top here and there's a braid on top here. So what we're doing is we've got this braid underneath and we're going to take it over the horizontal braid. Same again, over the horizontal braid and turn it. And so you can see there's a little square in there. So that's where you can see a bit of the braid structure. By having a look at this, you can see that this is underneath. So this must come over this one, because I said, didn't I say, you're always going over. Over. So that's another little way to remember, over. Over. And see how that's built a nice spiral? Hopefully you can see that. All right, we'll just pop this back in the resting position again, because now we're going to move on to finishing the braid. So we'll use this one as an example. This is the this braid. So what we're going to do is we are going to finish off the braid. And to finish off the braid, you need to, we will chop this one or this. You can see that I've used this one before as an example, but I'll leave that there just so it doesn't unravel while we're working on it. Now, there's my needle, here we go. So in your kit, you've got a needle and you've got some thread, okay? So this is what we call binding the ends, okay? So you've got your needle, you're going to pop a little knot in the end of your thread. And this is just it's just called Nemo. So it's a strong nylon cord that's fine enough that it'll be hidden. Once we actually put the end on, it'll be hidden. So we've got a little knot in the end. Chop that off. Right. And you need to do this to both ends of your braid. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to get our needle and we're going to go through the braid like this. It's probably a bit hard to see the dark on this, but anyway, we're going to wrap it around and around and around and around and around and around, and then just finish it off. Oops. Just finish it off with a little knot like that, tight, and then cut it off. Let's put another little knot in the other end and repeat that process. Okay. Just make sure you don't lose the thread out of there because it can be challenging. Oops, to rethread it. And this knot looks good again. There we go. That's it. Let's pull this cord through a bit. Then, see, this is where we were before. So we're going to go about 1 to 1.5 centimetres away. And we're going to do the next part of the braid. Wrap that part. Hard to get through there. Okay. So now we're going to wrap around and around and around and around, you know, about 8 times or something. Just as long as you've got a nice thick row of thread there. And then finish that off. There we go. Cut that off. Right. So now we've got, it's probably a little hard to see, we've got a row of binding cord there and a row of binding cord there. So that's called binding the ends, okay? So now what we're going to do is get our end cap ready. And you'll need to do one end at a time, because what you're going to do is use gravity. You'll pop the end in to your into your clasp, but we'll use gravity as well. So what we're going to use is, this is where your handy little toothpicks come in. Fantastic little tools. There's some of those in your kit. Right, just ordinary toothpicks. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pop some E6, this is E6000 that's in your kit, and this is a jewellery specific glue. You can also use a 2-part epoxy to glue on your ends. I tend to use a 2-part epoxy because I sell finished pieces. But if it's just for yourself and you don't feel comfortable using the 2-part epoxy, E6000 will be more than satisfactory for the job. And once you've glued it in, you just need to make sure that you don't touch it for a good 24 hours. It takes 24 hours to cure. Okay. So these are just a little screw cap. You know, it's like opening any sort of tube. Just turn it over, pop the end in, turn it, and that pierces the tube for you. So a little trick that I've learned is that what you can do to hold this in place, some people get some foam and like have a foam wedge and some slots in the foam and then pop their endings in. But this is another way that you can do it. You just get your little toothpick here, and what we're going to do is just get a bit of glue. Now you don't want too much because you don't want it oozing out after you've popped your ending in. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our glue. We're going to put some inside the ending, so we can use the toothpick to sort of spread it around inside the ending. Like that. Then just rest that there for a second. And then what we're going to do is we're now going to cut between these two braids, and then we're going to put glue on the end and then pop that inside the ending there. Nice sturdy pair of scissors to cut in the middle. Okay. Look at that. Another toothpick here ready. And then a bit more glue. Try not to get any glue on the outside of your finding. You can clean it off with isopropyl alcohol, but you need to be quick. You need to do it as soon as it happens. Don't leave it, because once it gets on there, it won't go away. So we'll just get some glue, just put gently. See how this unravels really quickly? So you have to be fairly careful, and that's the reason why we bind it, so that it won't come apart. Just want to put your glue right around the edge, wrap it around like this. Just pop those little ends in and tidy it up as much as you can. Let's get rid of that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to use this other toothpick, a clean toothpick, and we're going to help, oh, the little thing's moved. We're going to help to pop this into place with this toothpick. So we're going to just get our braid, and we're just going to start and work it into the end, like this. Gradually start pushing it into the end. I mean, some people, you might find that it's actually easier to hold it for one half of it. Whatever works for you. I mean, there's no hard and fast rules about this. But the main thing is that you want to start pushing your braid into the end cap so that all the ends go in. Oh, got to do the challenge here. Just off a bit. There we go. Let's have another go. Let's get those ends. Oh, I might put a bit more glue on that. A bit more glue. More of a glue job. There we go. This is more of a challenge because it's got the ribbon and the braid, but this gives you, I always find it's good to sort of teach some of these little difficulties in the class, because then when you come to do it yourself, you go, oh, that's right, I remember that's how we did that. So that's always a good idea to sort of, have some of those happen while you're doing it, so you can see. Traps for young players. So we've got our braid. We're just going to start and push the braid in like that. Just keep going in. See, that's better this time. Oh. goes. Gently just push it in. See, once you get it started, it's okay. Now that bit of glue you can just wipe off with an isopropyl alcohol, or an alcohol wipe or something. Most people have got isopropyl alcohol. You can buy it at the supermarket these days. Use it for all sorts of cleaning things. And there we are. So now what you're going to do is you're going to find a place where you can actually just leave your braid to just hang. We're going to help use gravity to help move the rest of it, just move it in a little more securely into the end cap. I hope you can see all that. You can see that clearly. There we go. Is that it? I think you should be able to see that now. I have to say that I'm not used to doing video classes, so this is at first for me somewhat of a challenge, but there we go. Okay, so let's just tidy this up a little bit. So, and of course you're going to do the same with the other end. You're going to glue the other end in exactly the same way. You're going to give that some time to cure, and then pop your other end in. Same principle. And remember to leave your finished piece 24 hours before you wear it. Just a bit tangled up here. Let's put here. Tangled, there we go. Oh, move that there. Right. And then you'll end up with your finished piece. So this is just the starting point. Then, once you learn this technique, you can start moving into things that are more adventurous. And the skill and the technique is exactly the same, but this time we've just added some beads. And that introduces a whole new way of doing things. So this is got some beads, and this is 2 different size seed beads, and we've got some handmade lampwork beads in the centre. Another one where we've got the same size beads but different colours on this one. Another version again. These are all just one colour on this one, but they happen to be like a mixed metallic finish. And then we can start adding some more interesting things. Like this has got what we call the check glass lentil that's added, with some size 11 seed beads for a bracelet. So these all techniques are all the same. This is just a whole new horizon for what you can do. These are seed beads again, and then this is what we call, this is a lampwork teardrop. They're in there, and I've done with that one is I've got seed beads on 4 of the warps and teardrops on 4 of the warps. For the centre, by the end, is all seed beads. It's another version of the same thing, just slightly more of the teardrops this time, bigger teardrops. So these are actually the larger teardrops. You can get a mini teardrop, which is a nice, a small one again. Or then you can start adding things like some check glass. And these are what we call pips. So on this one, we've got pips and we've got seed beads underneath, it's flat. And then of course, the other option you've got is this is again using the magatama as a directional beads, but in this one, what I did was they all went in the one direction. So I made sure I picked them all up in the same direction, and that's why you get a much closer looking braid. And they're all pointing in the same, it looks a bit like a dragon scale. And then of course, just some plain seed beads. And I mean, if you want, you can do your braiding all the way to the back. But this one, what I've done is I've done part braiding, then I've added some end caps and put some chain on for some interest. I mean, this is just the start of what you can do. So that's just a little taster of what's available in tomorrow's class. Now the kit for that one is also available on my website. And that's that kit's $35 because the